Good morning, everyone. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Great. I'm doing something different. It's a little uncomfortable, but that's how growth happens, right?
Yeah.
My name is Reverend Dr. Alice Reid, and I'm the spiritual director here at Centers for Spiritual Living. Siri decided it wanted to close my laptop. Go away, Siri. Here we go. So, Grand Rising.
Grand Rising.
And I was so grateful for Reverend Judy's reminder of the depth of that phrase. I listened to her talk. I wasn't here with you last week because I was camping in Big Sur with 100 women. It was really lovely. Lovely to be in nature, lovely to be in Big Sur and back up in Northern California. While I was experiencing the power of nature, you were experiencing the power of Reverend Judy. And if you did not hear her talk last week, I really encourage you to go to our Facebook page or our website and re-listen to it. She asked some really great questions. We've been on this journey all year looking at this theme of rising higher, growing deeper. And she inquired upon us to consider, after 8 months of looking at this topic, where are we on our spiritual journey through this idea of rising higher and growing deeper? So I highly recommend a re-listen, even if you were here. And what I know about rising higher and growing deeper is that the deeper our roots, the more nourishment we feel. The more.
Please try again.
Siri, please turn yourself off for a little bit. Oh, power. Oh, it powered off all my notes. So, Mercury's not retrograde, is it? All right. So it powered off all my notes here. So just give it a minute, and I'll talk to you a little bit about this topic that we have for this month. And it's transcendent purpose. Transcendent purpose. And this idea of purpose is in our zeitgeist, right? It's in our culture. When we're looking at our career, when we're looking at our relationships, we sometimes search for that purpose that is dependent upon something in our environment, something in our landscape, something in our external world. Transcendent purpose is a little different. Transcendent purpose is a purpose that comes from deep within us, that comes from the place where we have our deep spiritual roots. I did an exercise many, many years ago at one of our conferences, and I raised my hand. The one was talking about purpose, and I raised my hand, and she said, "Who's got a purpose?" And I started to give her this 3-sentence purpose about, what my purpose was. And she said, "Really? All that?" And she helped me distill it down. And I walked out of that workshop with something that I still hold, and I can, if you wake me up in the middle of the night with a flashlight and say, "What's your purpose?" I'll say it is to reveal love. And the cool thing about a purpose that comes from deep within us, that's spiritual in nature, that absolutely comes from the depth of our being, is that it can show up in a myriad of ways. I can reveal love in traffic, letting somebody go in front of me when I'm really in a hurry. I can reveal love in tense relationships. I can reveal love when I'm feeling uncomfortable. I can reveal love when I have a dear one who's challenged. There's so many, I could go on and on and on. That purpose is a purpose that's deep and intrinsic and can show up as I'm guided to share it. And so as we talk about this idea of elevating, here it comes, can't load the file because I'm on. As we talk about this idea of elevating our awareness, that's today's topic, we have this opportunity to look at the things that we're paying attention to. Now, 2 weeks ago when we met, and we were talking about transcendent purpose, I talked about this revolutionary idea about disrupting the grind culture by resting, right? It's a revolutionary idea. I don't know about you, but I've had a couple of careers, and when I had a career as an accountant, I knew between like December and April 15th, I knew grind culture well. It was about doing. The problem with doing, the problem of always having like a to-do list and the stress of all that is that we can't tap into our inner wisdom because we are constantly dealing with distractions and external conditions that are drawing us out, that are demanding our attention. And so when we look at this idea of elevating our awareness, what I want to say about that sort of as a broad brushstroke is that when we elevate our awareness, we can tap into possibility. You know, there's a very famous quote by Albert Einstein, and it goes like this: problems cannot be solved with the same mindset that created them. Problems cannot be solved by the same mindset that created them. So that when our awareness is so involved in doing, we sometimes crowd out the presence within us that wants to lead us forward in any situation. Maybe I'm unique, but I'm going to bet that many of you have had the experience where you've been in a situation and from somewhere you don't know where, the perfect action, the right thing to say, the perfect thing not to do, the perfect thing not to say just came forward out of thin air. I like to say I pulled it out of my left ear. That is the kind of guidance we want to tap into when we are completely aligned with our purpose, when we understand that there's an opportunity for us to elevate our awareness beyond the everyday, which there's nothing wrong with every day. Like, there's good stuff that's happening around us all the time. But are we bringing our full self to it? And so this idea of elevating our awareness reminded me, and I've talked about this a couple years back, and I'm going to just talk about it in a more truncated way, a more condensed way. There's a fellow by the name of Sean Ginwright, and he wrote a book called The Four Pivots. And he has this beautiful idea that we can elevate our experience of being by simply pivoting in 4 key areas. And for me, when we talk about elevating our awareness and that idea of what we're paying attention to, because we all know that what we give our attention to is what we experience. And so the idea of pivoting, the very definition of it is to completely change the way in which one does something, to completely change the way one does something. And so Sean uses this lovely idea of pivoting around 4 basic ideas. And one of the things that I'm really grateful for in his body of work is that, I don't know about you, but I have blind spots. You know what I mean by blind spot? It's like I get so attached to something, or something is so ingrained in me that I cannot see any other way. I can't even imagine how things would be different. And when I get into these blind spots, that is the perfect time to begin to practice these 4 pivots so that I can get out of the mindset that has kept me stuck, that has kept me in a limited thinking, that has kept me in the this'll never change mentality. And so the first pivot that he has is actually called awareness, and it's from lens to mirror. Now, you all are a really smart crowd. You probably get where I'm going with this first one. It's like, oh, I could have had a V8, right? The lens is the belief system that I'm looking out into the world with. And the mirror, if we do mirror work, it allows us to step out from out behind our lens and to begin to see whatever is happening out in front of us that's being mirrored to us is an opportunity for some self-reflection. It's an opportunity to say, what is this situation trying to tell me about me? What is this situation trying to draw out of me? And when we can do that self-reflection, that mirror work, we can then, because the lens is the projection, right? When we are looking through our lens, we are projecting outward. But when we're doing mirror work, that's when we can come to a place of beginning to see ourselves and our connection to whatever it is we're projecting. And that can be some really powerful work when we need to elevate our awareness. The second pivot is connection. Moving from transactional relationships to transformational relationships. And in this pivot, Sean invites us to really connect with one another. A lot of our relationships can devolve into transactional relationships. What is it that you want from me, and what is it I want from you? That's transactional. But a transformational relationship is when I'm really willing to see you, and I'm really willing to hear you, and I'm really willing to be with you. And the change can feel very subtle, but it is an opportunity for us when we're in a relationship, when it feels dry, when it feels transactional, that we can pause and really listen deeply. We'll be doing some of this practice at 12 today when we do our listening circle, and I'll say more about that when we do our invitations later. But this idea of generating a sense of belonging to one another is transformational versus what I'm going to get from you and what are you going to get from me. The third place and way that we can elevate our awareness is around vision. And this is moving from problem fixing to possibility creating. Problem fixing to possibility creating. And I paused there a little bit because let me tell you folks, I am a master problem solver. I am a master problem fixer. It is a deep groove within my psyche, and it is a place that knee-jerk, again with the flashlight in the middle of the night, I'm going to try to solve the problem first. But when I can pause, and instead of seeing something to fix, I might ask, what wants to be known here? What is it that's possible? If this doesn't feel like it's working, can I let go of it long enough to be available to greater possibility? It's a subtle shift, just like the other two, but it's an opportunity for us to let spirit in, that transcendent purpose that comes from within us and expresses by means of us. And of course, the fourth one, this is the one that I struggle with the most. And Sean calls it simply presence. Moving from hustle to flow. Sounds like a rap song, hustle to flow. And that's where we catch ourselves caught up in the grind of all the to-do lists, the car needs to be washed, I got to clean the refrigerator, I got to make dinner, I got to do this meeting, all that grind kind of culture things that we get caught up with, and to step back and to trust the flow. Now, for me, that means that when I have a long to-do list, I pause, and if something isn't easy, if it's like trying to get that camel through the eye of the needle, I know it's something I need to put down for a little bit because it's not ready. And that's the invitation for me to see what is in the flow right now. What is it that wants to happen by means of me? Because what I know is that there is a grace to this universe, that it is always creating by means of me and you and every human being on this planet. The only way creation can experience itself is through us. It moves through us. It uses our marvelous mind. It uses our beautiful hearts. It expresses life by means of each one of us. And if you're not feeling really great about yourself right now, you have an opportunity to pause and elevate your awareness to that greater part of you that has never been harmed or hurt or damaged in any way. These very powerful ideas give us an opportunity to break the hold of the patterns that we get stuck in, the patterns of thinking, the patterns of doing, the patterns of responding to things. And if all we do is try to change our thinking, we might be missing a little something that's going to really carry us through this idea of pivoting, this idea of shifting. We have this great saying in Science and Mind, the Centers for Spiritual Living, is change your thinking, change your life. I really like that saying. I do. I like it a lot. But there's something missing in that formula, and that missing thing is the power of spirit. Like, I can go off in a corner and make a big long list about the things I need to change, and I can write affirmations all day long, but if I'm not tapping into that presence, I'm just working with my own steam. And my steam's pretty good, but if I'm talking about tapping into the same power that keeps the stars aligned in the sky, and that same power that breathes my breath and feeds every organ in my body through a simple inhalation and an exhalation, that's the same power I want to draw upon when I'm elevating my awareness and I'm looking at changing something in front of me. It isn't just, I love our science, but it's a science and a spirituality, and we need to work with them together. It is a beautiful marriage of the way we work with our thoughts and the way we surrender to the divine to move through us. So it is a spiritual science, and sometimes we can get thinking just lost in the science or lost in the spirituality, but we need to work with them together in order to experience the full power of this philosophy. One of my most favorite spiritual technologies that we work with, and I call it a technology because it kind of acts like it, is affirmative prayer or spiritual mind treatment. It was named such 100 years ago, and it does sound like a name that was of something that was named 100 years ago, but it isn't new. Ernest Holmes, who is the founder of Centers for Spiritual Living and Science of Mind, drew upon the ancients to come up with this formula for prayer. And the formula for prayer that he uses and that we use in this philosophy is a formula that helps us to elevate our awareness with the help of spirit. We invite spirit into the process. We allow ourselves to trust and to have faith. And I'm not talking about blind faith. I'm talking about the kind of faith you have that the next breath you take will be followed by an exhale. I'm talking about the same faith you have that when you wake up in the morning, even on an overcast day like today, you know the sun's out. There is a knowing that we can tap into, but it does take practice. It does take practice. I've been practicing this philosophy since the turn of the century. It's fun to say that, isn't it? And there are still places where my faith needs to grow. There are still places where I think I got to do it on my own steam. This is a lifelong practice. It's not a one and done. There are things that I have used spiritual mind treatment and affirmative prayer for that just snap and it was here. I've had wonderful demonstrations. And then there are things where I have to look at my deeper roots that might be attached to old ideas. And so what I will tell you is that prayer always works when I'm willing to let go, when I'm willing to trust Spirit, when I'm willing to have faith, when I'm willing to stop doing and pause and just be. Sounds like nothing, but it's everything. It's everything. There was a wonderful piece that was written by Daniel L. Morgan. He wrote the book Guidance for a Spiritual Journey, and I want to share it with you. He writes, "It is encouraging to realize that our very nature is such as to keep us growing and also to provide the instrument through which that growth is accomplished. We have a physical body, a complex emotional nature, and an intellect, and these three phases of our nature are so closely interrelated and they react so definitely upon each other that we have a triple set of capacities to be utilized in the process of our spiritual advancement. We get to bring our whole selves to this practice. And when we bring our whole selves to this practice, when we bring our minds and our hearts and our emotions and our body, we have the opportunity to tap into a deep and abiding power that wants to move through us, that wants to express by means of us. I started out talking my remarks today saying the only way that God can experience itself, the only way that Spirit can experience itself is by means of us, by means of humanity. There's this great prayer by St. Francis, which I'm not going to recite the whole thing. Look it up if you're not familiar with it. But he starts with asking to be an instrument of power, of God's power, of Spirit's power. And so I would add that let's be well played as an instrument of peace and divinity and amazing power and presence and transcendent purpose. Thank you very much. Okay. Thank you. So how about if I do a little neuro pathway regeneration? That's my 21st century term for spiritual mind treatment. Okay. So I invite you to just lower your gaze as you allow yourself to be surrendered to the thing that makes the grass grow. The very breath that breathes your body, that divine beingness that is expressing by means of your aliveness, your thoughts, your feelings, your body temple. And so knowing that we are one with this amazing power that is expressing by means of each one of us, I know that we elevate our awareness. We open ourselves to pure possibility. We notice our attachments. We question them. We allow ourselves to be curious, to let go of what needs to be let go of, and to grab hold of whatever it is that presence brings into the flow of our life. And so I know for each one that we are indeed these beautiful channels and vessels of peace, that we move through our week and our lives and our interactions with an elevated awareness that wherever we are, God is. Wherever we are, Spirit is expressing. It expresses and gives us the opportunity to express in every moment, in every breath, in every day. And so the invitation today is to simply trust, to have faith, to know that there is a power and a presence that wants to feel itself in our body temples, in our speech, in our thoughts, in our feelings, in our interactions. So we simply say yes. Yes, God. Yes, Spirit. Use me as an instrument. Play me well. And it is in deep gratitude that we acknowledge and elevate our idea of our relationship with this divine power. We let it move in, as, and through us. And we just revel in the joy of being God-informed in every way. And we anchor this joy by saying together, and so it is.